Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really embarking on a journey into some profound wisdom, looking at a timeless classic that's resonated with millions for, well, generations now.
That's right.
Our source material for this deep dive is Kahlil Gibran's The Prophet. If you've ever come across it, you know it's just brimming with insights on, well, pretty much every aspect of human life.
It really is a unique book, isn't it? And quite poetic. It presents itself as this series of really profound conversations. The whole setup is quite evocative, too.
Tell us about that.
Well, we meet this character, Al-Mustafa. He's lived for 12 years in this city, Orphalese, and he's been patiently waiting for his ship to come back and take him home.
12 years is a long time to wait.
It is. And just before he can leave, the people of Orphalese gather around him and they start asking him to share his wisdom. On everything: love, marriage, work, joy, sorrow, even death.
Right. So that's our mission today, really, to understand and sort of unpack the most important nuggets of knowledge from Al-Mustafa's teachings. We want to make them not just easy to grasp, but, genuinely engaging, entertaining even.
And applicable, hopefully.
Yes. Most importantly, applicable to our daily lives. So get ready for those moments where something just clicks, where you feel a truth resonating. Because this deep dive, well, it's really designed to help you connect with knowledge that might already be stirring inside you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dive in. Where does Al-Mustafa's journey actually begin in the book?
Okay, so the book opens with a chapter called The Coming of the Ship, and it immediately sets this powerful, almost melancholic tone, really, for the whole work. Mustafa, he's described as the chosen and the beloved, and he's spent these 12 long years waiting in Orphalese.
Waiting for his ship.
Exactly. And it finally appears on the 7th day of Elul, which Gibran tells us is the month of reaping.
And when he sees it, appearing through the mist, there's this immediate rush of joy. Gibran says it flew far over the sea. You can almost feel that, can't you? That wave of relief, the excitement of finally going home after such a long time away.
You absolutely can. But then, it's interesting, as he starts walking down the hill towards the city, towards the people, the emotion takes a turn.
How so?
A really profound sadness starts to come over him. He reflects, "How shall I go in peace and without sorrow? Nay, not without a wound in the spirit shall I leave this city." He thinks about the long days of pain and the nights of aloneness he spent there.
Mm-hmm.
And he realizes that leaving behind such deeply felt experiences, well, it's never without a sense of loss. It really highlights the complexity, that bittersweet feeling of all big transitions in life, even the ones we want.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's striking how he describes it, isn't it? That internal conflict. He says, "It is not a garment I cast off this day, but a skin that I tear with my own hands."
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's so much more than just leaving a place. It's like a painful shedding of a part of himself. He talks about leaving behind fragments of the spirit and children of longing. It shows just how deeply connected he became to Orphalese and its people.
Definitely.
This isn't just moving on. It feels like it's about a fundamental change, growth that kind of inherently involves some pain.
Exactly. And Al-Mustafa gets that. Even with this deep connection and the sorrow, there's this absolute need to move forward. He says, "Yet I cannot tarry longer. The sea that calls all things unto her calls me, and I must embark."
The sea calls?
Yeah. He understands that staying, even somewhere familiar or comfortable, can actually hold you back spiritually, personally. He says, "For to stay, though the hours burn in the night, is to freeze and crystallize and be bound in a mold."
Like getting stuck.
Precisely. It speaks right to that universal human thing, doesn't it? That movement and change are crucial to avoid stagnation, even when the moving on part is tough.
He also talks about wanting to take all that is here with him, but then he knows it's impossible. He says a voice cannot carry the tongue and the lips that gave it wings, and an eagle has to fly alone and without his nest.
That's beautiful.
It really is. It's such a poignant way of saying that some parts of our journey, some experiences, they're just ours. You can't physically pack everything or everyone up and take them into the next chapter. Some things have to just resonate inside us as memories or interchanges.
And that hits home for any big life change, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Leaving a job, a relationship ending, moving somewhere new, even just aging.
Mm-hmm.
You feel that pull towards the new, the call to, embark. But at the same time, you often grieve the parts of yourself in your life you're leaving behind.
Yeah.
Gibran really validates that whole complex emotional landscape.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically saying this bittersweet feeling. It's a totally natural part of growing.
So as Al-Mustafa gets closer to the city, the people of Orphalese, they sense he's leaving, right? They gather from their fields, their vineyards, calling his name.
They do. And they plead with him, "Go not yet away from us. No stranger are you among us, nor a guest, but our son and our dearly beloved." They really saw him as a noontide in their twilight, someone who brought light and meaning into their lives.
You can feel their connection to him.
Definitely. And the priests and priestesses, they echo this, saying, "Let not the waves of the sea separate us now. You have walked among us a spirit, and your shadow has been a light upon our faces." They saw him as more than just a man, like a guiding spirit.
Wow.
And this exchange also gives us one of the book's most famous, most relatable lines. "And ever has it been that love knows not its own depth until the hour of separation."
Oh, that line is just, it hits hard, doesn't it? It reflects how often we don't fully grasp the value of something or someone until it's about to be gone, or already is. But then Almitra steps forward. She's the seeress.
Right, the one who first believed in him.
Exactly. And she has this huge request. She says, "Yet this we ask ere you leave us, that you speak to us and give us of your truth. Now therefore disclose us to ourselves and tell us all that has been shown you of that which is between birth and death."
Basically tell us everything. The meaning of life.
Pretty much. Everything he's learned from his unique perspective. And his response, well, it sets the stage for the whole rest of the book and for our deep dive today. What does he say?
He simply says, "People of Orphalese, of what can I speak, save of that which is even now moving within your souls?"
So it's not about him bestowing some secret wisdom they don't have.
Exactly. That's the crucial point. It's about him articulating what they already sort of intuitively know or feel stirring inside them. He's giving voice to their own inner truths.
So for us listening, this introduction really establishes a core idea that runs through Gibran's work. True wisdom isn't some external thing, some secret only a few people get. It resonates with what you already know deep down, stirring within your own being, just waiting to be recognized. Every ending is a new beginning, right? And these moments of transition, even though they're bittersweet, often bring the deepest insights. It makes you think, how can we embrace these transitions in our own lives? The necessary moves, the bittersweet goodbyes. Embrace them with both joy for what's coming and acceptance for the sorrow of what's left behind. How can we see them as catalysts for growth instead of just loss?
It's a powerful invitation, really, to look within as we navigate change.
It truly is. Okay, so with that foundation laid, the people start asking their questions, seeking guidance, and the very first one comes from Almitra, the seeress. What does she ask?
She asks, simply, "Speak to us of love." And Almistra's response is probably one of the most famous parts of the book. It starts with this powerful, almost demanding instruction. "When love beckons to you, follow him, though his ways are hard and steep."
Yeah, this isn't some, fluffy hearts and flowers idea of love we often get fed, is it? He immediately hits you with this paradox. Love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. It's for your growth, so is he for your pruning.
Oof.
Pruning. Right. It's a tough truth. It implies that real love isn't just about comfort and happiness. It actually involves pain, sacrifice, a stripping away of things that aren't essential for our deeper growth. It's not always nice, but it's purposeful.
And Gibran's metaphors here are so vivid, aren't they? These agricultural ones. He's showing us that love isn't just a feeling. It's this profound, almost industrial process that turns raw material into something essential.
How does he describe that?
He says, "Love gathers you like sheaves of corn, that it threshes you to make you naked, sifts you to free you from your husks, grinds you to whiteness, then it kneads you until you are pliant, and finally assigns you to his sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast."
Wow, that's quite a process. Harvest to baking.
Exactly. It's a transformative thing, meant to purify us, prepare us to become something vital, sacred. It's more like a crucible than a comfy cushion.
Okay, that makes sense. So the point of this intense, maybe even brutal process isn't punishment, but revelation. He says, "All these things shall love do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart, and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart."
Self-knowledge through the fire of love.
Exactly. It's about finding deep self-knowledge through the often difficult experience of loving. And he warns against just seeking love's peace and love's pleasure, because that leads to a seasonless world where you only laugh halfway, weep halfway. You miss the full transformative experience if you only go for the easy parts.
A really critical point he makes is about love being self-sufficient. Love gives not but itself, and takes not but from itself. Love possesses not, nor would it be possessed, for love is sufficient unto love.
That really challenges our usual ideas, doesn't it? Society often tells us we need someone else to complete us, or that love means owning someone.
Right. But Al-Mustafa flips that completely. He suggests love is this inherent, self-sustaining force like, I don't know, gravity or sunshine. You don't own it or get it, you become part of it. It's a huge shift from thinking about scarcity to thinking about abundance when it comes to love.
And the really deep part for me is when he says, when you love, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It shifts everything, doesn't it? From possessing the divine or even love itself to being completely enveloped by it. It's surrender, immersion. And he adds that love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. It's a guide, a powerful current, not something we steer.
He then lists what love really desires, and it goes way beyond just feeling happy. It's about melting like a stream, knowing the pain of too much tenderness, being wounded by your own understanding of love, and leading willingly.
So vulnerability.
Totally.
Wow.
Waking with a winged heart, meditating on love's ecstasy, coming home grateful, sleeping with prayer and praise. It's this all-encompassing, deeply felt thing that demands our full presence and, yes, vulnerability.
So the core insight here seems to be that love, for Al-Mustafa, isn't just a feeling. It's this powerful, transformative force that demands we be vulnerable, that challenges us. It's not always comfortable, but it's absolutely vital for growth and self-discovery. It reshapes us, even through pain, but he sees that as a path to deeper self-knowledge, deeper connection. And this isn't just romance, right? It could be love for life, for humanity, for your art. Anything that asks you to give yourself completely.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder, how do you listening typically think about love? As just a gentle comfort or as this powerful agent of change? And how might embracing love in its fullness, with all its beauty and its difficulty, unlock something new within you?
That's a great question to sit with. And building on that idea of connection and transformation, Mitra then asks, and what of marriage, Master?
Okay, so after love, marriage. What's his take?
Well, Al-Mustafa's teaching here directly challenges the common idea of completely merging in a relationship. He starts by affirming togetherness, saying, "You were born together, and together you shall be forevermore, even in the silent memory of God." So the bond is real.
Pat, there's usually a but with Gibran.
There is, and it's probably the most famous line from this part. But let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between you.
Spaces in togetherness. That immediately tells you true intimacy isn't about dissolving into each other. It's about creating room to breathe, to grow, to move as individuals within the partnership.
Precisely. And he backs this up with these lovely specific analogies. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls.
Ah, the sea connects the shores, but the shores stay separate.
Exactly. And he adds, fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. The idea is you can share deeply, nourish each other, but each person should still have their own source of, well, sustenance, fulfillment. It's about mutual enrichment, not absorption.
I like how he stresses individuality even when you're sharing joy. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone, even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music.
Great image, isn't it? The strings are separate, they have to be for the lute to work, but together they create harmony.
Yeah, and this line, give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping, for only the hand of life can contain your hearts. Meaning your ultimate self, your core, belongs to something bigger, not just your partner. It allows for integrity.
And he brings it back to a strong physical image, the pillars of a temple, and stand together yet not too near together. For the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow.
Right. Pillars support the same roof, but they need their own foundation, their own space. Trees need their own light and soil to thrive.
It beautifully emphasizes that need for mutual respect, for individual strength, autonomy, and growth within a partnership.
So the key takeaway here is that Gibran is really pushing back against that traditional idea of total fusion in marriage or any close relationship, really. He's advocating for healthy interdependence, mutual respect for individuality. Stronger partnerships, it seems, are built by having stronger individuals first.
That seems to be the core message.
It makes you think, how can you apply this idea of spaces in your closest relationships, whether it's with a partner, family, friends? How can you allow for personal growth and identity while still keeping that deep connection and shared joy? It's about honoring both the we and the I.
A delicate balance, but a crucial one. Then moving from marriage, a woman holding a baby asks about children.
Okay, children. What's his perspective here?
Well, his response is incredibly profound. It completely reframes parenthood, shifting it away from ownership towards stewardship. He starts with this really striking statement. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself.
Wow, life's longing for itself. So they don't belong to you. They're like manifestations of life's own desire to continue, and you're just the channel.
Exactly. He clarifies, they come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. That immediately pulls the rug out from under it. Any idea of possession that can sometimes, subtly creep into parenting.
It's a radical start.
It is.
Yeah.
And then he details the natural, almost spiritual limits of parental influence. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls.
For their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. That's powerful. It highlights that kids are distinct beings with their own paths, their own inner worlds, ultimately unreachable even by their parents. They aren't just mini-me's.
Right. So the core guidance for parents, according to Al-Mustafa, is this. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday.
So embrace their newness, their future focus, their unique perspective. Instead of trying to mold them into copies of ourselves or clinging to our own past, meet them where they are, heading towards their tomorrow.
Beautifully put. And then he introduces one of the most stunning metaphors in the whole book.
Yeah.
The parent as a bow and children as living arrows sent forth by the archer.
The archer, representing life or God.
Yes, life or God. And this archer bends the bow with his might that his arrows may go swift and far. It implies this divine purpose, a trajectory for each child that's way beyond the parent's control.
And the lesson for parents in that metaphor?
It's this. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. It encourages parents to accept their role as the supportive channel, bending willingly, finding joy in helping their children fly towards their own destiny, trusting that larger force.
It's about letting go with love.
Exactly. Letting go with love and stability.
So the profound insight here is Gibran offering this radical view of parenthood as stewardship, not ownership. It's about fostering independence, respecting the unique path of each child, recognizing they're connected to something larger than the family unit.
Mm-hmm.
It really prompts the question, how can you embrace this bow mentality, releasing that need for total control, celebrating the individuality of those you nurture, whether they're your kids, students, mentees, even creative projects you launch into the world? It's about facilitating growth, not dictating it.
A powerful shift in perspective. The conversation then moves to the act of giving when a rich man poses the question.
Giving. Okay, what's Al-Mustafa's take on generosity?
He immediately challenges the usual understanding. He says, you give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. That sets the stage for a much deeper look at generosity, beyond just, material stuff.
Giving of yourself. That's a powerful distinction, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. And he digs into the fear of needing things later. He points out this irony. For what are your possessions but things you keep in guard for fear you may need them tomorrow? And what is fear of need but need itself? He uses the image of an overprudent dog burying bones, or having an unquenchable thirst even when your well is full. It's like the very fear of lack can create the spiritual or emotional lack it's trying to avoid.
That's insightful. Does he talk about why people give?
Yes, he looks at different motivations. There are those who give a little just to be recognized, but their hidden desire makes their gifts unwholesome. Then there are those who have little but give it all. He calls them believers in life and the bounty of life, and says their coffer is never empty.
Suggesting true abundance comes from generosity, not hoarding.
Exactly. And a particularly striking part is his description of the highest form of giving. It's those who give without pain, without joy, without even being conscious of their own virtue. As in yonder valley, the myrtle breathes its fragrance into space.
Effortless giving.
Effortless, natural, aligned with some divine flow. He says, through the hands of such as these, God speaks, and from behind their eyes, he smiles upon the earth.
Wow. And it's notable, too, that he says it's better to give unasked, through understanding. And for those who give freely, the search for one who shall receive is joy greater than giving.
Yeah, that reframes it beautifully, doesn't it? Making the intention, the intuitive grasp of someone's need, and that connection with the receiver just as important, maybe more important, than the actual gift.
He also stresses the inevitability of giving. All you have shall someday be given. Therefore give now, that the season of giving may be yours and not your inheritors.
A call to generosity in the now.
Right. And he challenges giving only to the deserving. He points to nature's unconditional giving trees. Don't check your credentials before offering fruit. Sheep, don't ask if you're worthy of wool.
Which raises the question about receiving, right?
Exactly. What about receiving? Does he talk about that?
He does, and it's profound. He introduces the charity of receiving. He asks, what desert greater shall there be than that which lies in the courage and the confidence, nay, the charity of receiving?
The charity of receiving, that totally flips the script. It suggests receiving well can be a courageous act of trust, of openness. It actually helps the giver by allowing them the joy of giving.
Precisely. He advises receivers not to feel a weight of gratitude, which can become a yoke. Instead, rise together with the giver on his gifts as on wings. And this powerful final thought about the giver. For in truth, it is life that gives unto life, while you, who deem yourself a giver, are but a witness.
We're just conduits.
We're just conduits for a larger life force, not the ultimate source.
Okay, so the big insight here is that true generosity for Al-Mustafa comes from the heart, the spirit, not just the wallet. It's about giving your essence, yourself, not just your stuff. And it also reframes receiving as this courageous act, vital for the whole cycle of life's abundance. It makes you think. How can you cultivate a spirit of giving that's joyful, intuitive, seeing yourself as just a channel? And also, how can you be open to receiving gracefully, without guilt, knowing that completes the circle?
It's a beautiful cycle to contemplate. Moving from that abstract act of giving to something very concrete, sustaining ourselves. An innkeeper asks about eating and drinking.
Eating and drinking. Okay, what's his take on something so basic?
Well, his ideal is quite ethereal. He says, with it you could live on the fragrance of the earth and like an air plant be sustained by the light. He dreams of this purely spiritual existence.
Like living on air, but that's not our reality, is it?
Not yet, anyway. So he quickly grounds his wisdom in our human form. But since you must kill to eat and rob the newly born of its mother's milk to quench your thirst, let it then be an act of worship.
An act of worship, eating.
Yes. It transforms mundane consumption into a sacred ritual. Your table, your board becomes an altar where innocent life is sacrificed for that which is purer and still more innocent in man. It demands a profound level of mindfulness, of reverence.
How does that look in practice?
He suggests these internal dialogues when we consume. To an animal, you might say inwardly, by the same power that slays you, I too am slain, and I too shall be consumed. Your blood and my blood is not but the sap that feeds the tree of heaven.
Wow. That's a deep recognition of interconnectedness, isn't it? The whole cycle of life and death, everything returning to the source.
Exactly. And similar feelings for plants. When you crush an apple, think, your seeds shall live in my body, and the buds of your tomorrow shall blossom in my heart, and together we shall rejoice through all the seasons.
And for wine?
For grapes or wine, it's recognizing yourself as a vineyard, also destined to be gathered for the winepress, kept in eternal vessels. Every bite, every sip becomes this intimate, sacred exchange, acknowledging the cycle of life and our place in it.
So the profound insight here is Gibran teaching us mindfulness and gratitude and eating and drinking, turning everyday acts into sacred rituals. It shifts us from just consuming to actively participating in the web of life. It makes you consider, how can you bring that level of awareness and respect to your daily meals? Maybe just a moment of silent thanks before eating, or thinking about where your food came from. That small practice could transform a simple meal into an act of worship, deepening your connection to all the life that sustains you.
It certainly changes the feeling of eating. Following that, a plowman asks about work.
Work. Okay, another fundamental. What's his view? Not just a necessity.
Definitely not just a necessity. He defines work as a way to keep pace with the earth and the soul of the earth. He contrasts it sharply with being idle, which he says is to become a stranger unto the seasons and to step out of life's procession. Work connects us to the rhythm of existence.
He uses that beautiful metaphor, too, doesn't he, about the flute?
He does. When you work, you are a flute, through whose heart he whispering of the hours turns to music. That's such a radical reframing. Work as an instrument for divine melody, a way life expresses itself through us.
That's incredible. He really pushes back against the idea of work as a curse.
He absolutely does. He challenges the notion that work is a curse and labor a misfortune. He says, when you work, you fulfill a part of Earth's furthest dream, assigned to you when that dream was born. It suggests our work has this deep, maybe even preordained purpose in the grand scheme.
And the connection he draws between work and love is key here, isn't it?
Huge. To love life through labor is to be intimate with life's inmost secret. He admits there might be pain in work, but sees it as almost redemptive. Not but the sweat of your brow shall wash away that which is written. It's about purification through dedication.
He lays out that philosophical chain, too.
Yes. Life is indeed darkness, save when there is urge. And all urge is blind, save when there is knowledge. And all knowledge is vain, save when there is work. And all work is empty, save when there is love.
Which culminates in that incredibly powerful statement.
Work is love made visible. It's the ultimate expression of our inner love, our purpose, made tangible in the world.
And he explains what it means to work with love, right?
Yes, he elaborates. It's weaving cloth, with threads drawn from your heart, even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. It's building a house with affection, sowing seeds with tenderness, charging everything you make or do with a breath of your own spirit.
So it's not about how grand the job is, but the love you put into it. That transforms any task into devotion.
Exactly. And he emphasizes equality. The wind doesn't speak sweeter to giant oaks than to tiny blades of grass. True greatness isn't the size of the work, but turning the wind's voice into a song made sweeter by his own loving.
So the value is in the love and intention.
Precisely. And he warns about working without love. Baking bread with indifference makes bitter bread that feeds but half man's hunger. Grudging grapes distills poison. Singing without love muffles the listener's ears. The quality of our spirit really shapes the outcome.
The profound insight here is that Al-Mustafa lifts work from just being a chore or a way to pay bills to being this deep expression of love and purpose. Work becomes our daily chance to make our inner love visible. It makes you think, how can you infuse your own work, whatever it is, mundane or grand, with that intention, that affection, that sense of contributing to a larger dream? By doing that, you can transform your daily grind into visible acts of love, finding deeper meaning right there.
It's a truly inspiring perspective on labor. The conversation then turns inward, exploring our emotions, as a woman asks about joy and sorrow.
Ah, joy and sorrow, the big ones. What does he say?
He immediately hits us with a core truth, maybe a paradoxical one at first glance. Your joy is your sorrow unmasked. He explains that the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears.
So they're intimately connected, inseparable even.
Exactly. And what's really powerful is this idea of capacity he introduces. The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain.
Wow, like sorrow hollows you out to hold more joy.
Precisely. He uses analogies like the cup burned in the potter's oven, or the lute hollowed out with knives. Both need that sort of painful process to fulfill their purpose, to hold more, resonate more. The pain doesn't diminish us. It actually creates the space for greater joy.
That's a mind-bending way to think about it. How does he suggest we navigate these feelings day to day?
He offers this really practical advice. When you are joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find it is only that which is giving you sorrow that is giving you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight.
So they're completely intertwined. The roots of one are in the other. It's a flow, not a switch flipping between two separate states.
Right. And he pushes back against the idea that one is better or more desirable. I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come. And when one sits alone with you at your board, remember that the other is asleep upon your bed.
We're like scales, he says, balanced between them.
Exactly. Suspended like scales between your sorrow and your joy, only truly balanced when empty, implying this constant dynamic dance between these essential parts of being human.
The profound insight here seems to be this holistic view of emotions. True joy can't exist without sorrow, and vice versa. Instead of trying to avoid pain, he invites us to embrace both as integral parts of being human, recognizing that one actually deepens the other, increasing our capacity for life. Makes you consider, how can you consciously allow yourself to feel the whole range of your emotional landscape? Can you accept that sorrow might actually be expanding your capacity for future joy? It's about accepting everything that comes with being human.
Finding acceptance in the full spectrum. Then a Mason asks about houses.
Houses, okay, our physical dwellings. What's his advice here?
He starts with something unexpected. Build of your imaginings a bower in the wilderness ere you build a house within the city walls. He stresses the importance of the wanderer in you, the part that's ever distant and alone, needing a home too.
So tend to your inner spiritual home before focusing on the physical one.
That seems to be the idea. He defines the house as your larger body, suggesting it should be an extension of our true spiritual self, capable of sleeping and dreaming like we do. He longs for a world where houses were scattered naturally, where valleys were your streets and the green paths your alleys. A life in harmony with nature, unconfined.
But he knows that's not the reality for most.
Right. He acknowledges, in their fear, your forefathers gathered you too near together. City walls separate us from fields, which leads him to ask, what is it you guard with fastened doors? Is it peace? Beauty? Or, he asks, or have you only comfort and the lust for comfort?
Ah, comfort, here comes the warning.
Exactly. He calls comfort that stealthy thing that enters the house a guest and then becomes a host and then a master. A tamer that murders the passion of the soul and then walks grinning in the funeral.
Wow, that's a stark warning against chasing comfort at the expense of our soul's desires, our vitality. Too much comfort can make us spiritually numb.
It's a powerful image. He then describes the ideal role of a house with this great distinction. Your house shall be not an anchor, but a mast.
An anchor holds you down, a mast helps you sail. Movement versus stagnation.
Precisely. It shall not be a glistening film that covers a wound, but an eyelid that guards the eye. Protection, not concealment. He urges freedom. You shall not fold your wings that you may pass through doors, nor bend your heads, nor fear to breathe lest walls should crack. Our spaces shouldn't diminish our spirit.
They shouldn't be tombs made by the dead for the living.
Right. Nor should they hold your secret nor shelter your longing, because our true boundless self abides in the mansion of the sky, whose door is the morning mist, and whose windows are the songs and the silences of night. Our real home is limitless.
The insight here is Gibran pushing us to really think about our relationship with our homes. Are they places that help us expand, support our growth, or have we let them become places of confinement, maybe too much comfort, holding back our soul's desires? It makes you ask, how can you make your living space a better reflection of your boundless spirit? How can it support your growth instead of subtly hindering it? It's about consciously making our environment serve our highest self, not becoming a slave to it.
A challenging but important reflection. Then, an order asks about freedom.
Freedom, another huge concept. What's his angle here?
He immediately points out this striking paradox. People prostrate yourself and worship your own freedom, even as slaves humble themselves before a tyrant. He's seen the freest among you wear their freedom as a yoke and a handcuff.
So our very idea or pursuit of freedom can trap us.
That's what he suggests. So what's true freedom then? He says you're only truly free when even the desire of seeking freedom becomes a harness, when it stops being a goal. True freedom is when cares and wants girdle your life and yet you rise above them naked and unbound.
It's not the absence of limits, but transcending them from within, an internal state, not an external condition.
Exactly. And then he drops this bombshell. In truth, that which you call freedom is the strongest of these chains, though its links glitter in the sun and dazzle your eyes. Our concept of freedom, especially if it's based on external things or fighting against something, can itself be a limitation.
So the chains we want to break are often self-imposed.
That's his argument. An unjust law, he says, was written with your own hand upon your own forehead. You have to destroy a tyrant's throne within you. Fears and cares are chosen by you rather than imposed upon you. The fear is in your heart and not in the hand of the feared.
That's a radical internal shift. It puts all the responsibility for liberation on us.
It does. He talks about the constant half-embrace of desired and dreaded things within us, like lights and shadows and pairs that cling. It's an internal struggle with our own contradictions.
And the ultimate paradox
is that your freedom, when it loses its fetters, becomes itself the fetter of a greater freedom. It suggests liberation is this ongoing, perhaps endless process.
Okay, so the profound insight. Freedom, for Al-Mustafa, is internal, not external. We often limit ourselves with our own beliefs, desires, fears, even when we're chasing freedom. It really makes you ask, how can you identify and start breaking the self-imposed chains that stop you from feeling truly liberated inside? Recognizing it's an ongoing journey of shedding parts of yourself, not just getting something external.
It's a deep internal excavation. Following that, the priestess asks about reason and passion.
Reason and passion, the head and the heart, how does he handle that classic conflict?
Well, he describes the soul as a battlefield, where your reason and your judgment wage war against your passion and your appetite. He longs for oneness and melody within us, but knows achieving that requires our own internal peacemaking integration.
Does he offer a way to do that? An analogy, perhaps?
He does, a really clear one. He compares the seafaring soul to a ship. Your reason and your passion are the rudder and the sails.
Okay, reason is the rudder for direction, stability. Passion is the sails for power, momentum. Makes sense.
And he explains the problem if they're unbalanced. If either your sails or your rudder be broken, you can but toss and drift, or else be held at a standstill in mid-seas. Without both working together, you're lost or stuck.
What are the dangers of each on its own?
He defines them clearly. Reason, ruling alone, is a force confining, and passion unattended is a flame that burns to its own destruction. Neither is healthy by itself.
So the path is synthesis, harmony.
Exactly. Therefore, let your soul exalt your reason to the height of passion that it may sing, and let it direct your passion with reason, that your passion may live through its own daily resurrection, and like the phoenix, rise above its own ashes.
Passion gives reason its song, reason gives passion direction, integration, not suppression.
Beautifully put. He advises treating judgment and appetite, reason and passion like two loved guests, honoring both equally, because favoring one makes you lose the love and the faith of both. He even connects this balance to the divine. God rests in reason, calm thought, and God moves in passion, raw emotion. Both are divine expressions.
So his instruction for us is
Clear and simple. You too should rest in reason and move in passion. It's not about choosing, but finding that dynamic harmony between them in everything we do.
the profound insight here is the vital importance of integrating our logical minds with our emotional drives. Neither should dominate. They need each other to guide us towards a harmonious, full life. It makes you think. How can you cultivate this balance day to day? Maybe when making a big decision, don't just make a pros and cons list, reason. Also check in with your gut, your intuition. What's your passion, your deep desire telling you?
Right.
And the other way around. If you're feeling overwhelmed by emotion, pause. Let reason provide the framework, the rudder for that powerful energy. It's about becoming a skilled navigator of your own inner seas.
Mastering that inner ship. Then a woman asks about pain.
Pain. Okay, something most of us try to run from. What's his perspective?
He offers this truly transformative view, shifting it from something just to be endured to something with a purpose. Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding.
The breaking of the shell, like a seed.
Exactly. He compares it to the stone of the fruit that must break, that his heart may stand in the sun. Pain, in this view, is a necessary catalyst for growth, for revelation. It cracks us open to new awareness.
That's such a powerful image. He suggests if we could just keep wondering at life's daily miracles, pain would seem no less wondrous than your joy.
Yeah, encouraging us to accept the seasons of your heart. Watch with serenity through the winters of your grief. It's about mindful acceptance of suffering as part of a larger, beautiful, purposeful cycle.
He also says something quite provocative, doesn't he? That much of our pain is self-chosen.
He does. He calls it a bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. This really shifts responsibility inward. It suggests even our pain serves this deep, internal healing purpose, guided by an innate wisdom that knows what we need for growth, even if it's uncomfortable.
And we should trust this inner physician.
Yes. Drink the remedy in silence and tranquility, knowing the hand giving it is guided by the unseen, and the cup itself is made from clay mixed with his own sacred tears. It's about surrender, trusting a deeper, benevolent process, even when it hurts, finding grace in suffering.
So the profound insight. Gibran reframes pain not as something to avoid at all costs, but as a necessary catalyst for deeper understanding, healing, part of our growth. It makes you ask, how can you maybe shift your relationship with pain? Instead of resisting, could you see it as a transformative process, guided by a deeper wisdom, a necessary breaking that lets your inner core see the light?
A profound reorientation. Next, a man asks about self-knowledge.
Self-knowledge, the big quest. What does Al-Mustafa say?
He explains that our hearts already know secrets silently, but our ears thirst for the sound of your heart's knowledge. We have this innate human urge to vocalize, to touch our dreams, to bring the inner out into the open.
Even the hidden known.
Right. He describes how the hidden wellspring of your soul must needs rise and run murmuring to the sea, and the treasure of your infinite depths would be revealed to your eyes. But then comes the crucial advice, guarding against thinking we can fully grasp it all.
What's the advice?
But let there be no scales to weigh your unknown treasure, and seek not the depths of your knowledge with staff or sounding line, for self is a sea, boundless and measureless. You just can't quantify or fully contain the vastness of your own soul.
Okay, so if it's boundless and measureless, how do we even approach knowing ourselves?
He gives this really important guidance. Say not, I have found the truth, but rather, I have found a truth. See, rather, I have met the soul walking upon my path.
Ah, truth, not the truth. That's a huge distinction. It acknowledges that understanding is partial, always evolving. It's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. It's about being open to continuous revelation, not finding a final answer. He emphasizes the soul's multifaceted nature. It walks upon all paths and unfolds itself like a lotus of countless petals. It's not this fixed thing you can pin down, but a dynamic, ever-revealing process.
The insight here seems to be that self-knowledge, for al-Mustafa, is an endless journey, not a destination, not a fixed truth you capture. It's about ongoing discovery, embracing the boundless mystery within. It makes you wonder, how do you approach your own self-discovery? Are you trying to define yourself, put yourself in a box? Or are you allowing your soul to unfold like that lotus, recognizing each truth you find is just one petal of an infinite flower, always inviting more exploration?
It encourages humility and openness on the path. Then a teacher asks about teaching.
Teaching? Okay. What's his perspective on education?
He offers a really humbling view, one that reframes the whole role. He says, "No man can reveal to you aught but that which already lies half asleep in the dawning of your knowledge."
So true learning is basically waking up what's already inside us, not getting information implanted from outside.
That seems to be the core idea. So the teacher's role isn't just to dump their wisdom onto you. Al-Mustafa says a true teacher, quote, gives not of his wisdom, but rather of his faith and his lovingness. And if they're truly wise, he does not bid you enter the house of his wisdom, but rather leads you to the threshold of your own mind.
Guiding you to your own inner knowing, fostering your discovery, not imposing their understanding.
Exactly. He illustrates this beautifully. An astronomer can talk about space but can't give you his understanding. A musician can sing the rhythm but can't give you the ear to hear it or the voice to echo it. An expert in numbers can describe measurements but can't actually conduct you thither.
Not.
Because, he says, for the vision of one man lends not its wings to another man. Each person has to experience and internalize truth for themselves. Our understanding is so uniquely ours, built on our own experiences.
So we each stand alone in our knowing.
Essentially, yes. Even as each one of you stands alone in God's knowledge, so must each one of you be alone in his knowledge of God and in his understanding of the earth. We're individual seekers on our own path.
The profound insight here is Gibran redefining teaching as facilitation, not indoctrination. True learning is internal, self-directed, and awakening.
Right.
It makes you consider, how can you be a better teacher, whether you're a formal educator, a mentor, a parent, by guiding others to that threshold of their own mind, fostering their exploration? And how can you be a better learner by actively seeking that threshold within yourself, not just passively soaking up information? It's about active participation in awakening.
A powerful call for both teaching and learning. Next, a youth asks about friendship.
Friendship, a topic close to many hearts. What's his definition?
He offers this beautiful, deeply functional one. Your friend is your needs answered. He is your field which you sow with love and reap with thanksgiving. Also your board and your fireside, a source of comfort and peace when you're hungry or need solace, a relationship of mutual support.
Does he talk about communication and friendship?
He does, emphasizing openness and honesty. When your friend speaks his mind, you fear not the nay in your own mind, nor do you withhold the a. It suggests this space of complete trust where differences are safe. But even deeper is the unspoken connection.
What does he say about that?
When he is silent, your heart ceases not to listen to his heart. For without words, in friendship, all thoughts, all desires, all expectations are born and shared with joy that is unacclaimed. It's this deeper intuitive bond beyond just words.
And what about when friends are apart? Does he address that?
Yes, and he reframes separation positively. When you part from your friend, you grieve not. For that which you love most in him may be clearer in his absence, as the mountain to the climber is clearer from the plain.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder, or clearer in this case. It clarifies what truly matters.
Exactly. And he states the core purpose of friendship, elevating it way beyond just companionship. Let there be no purpose in friendship save the deepening of the spirit.
Deepening of the spirit. So it's not about utility or what you can get out of it.
Right. He warns against self-serving connections. For love that seeks aught but the disclosure of its own mystery is not love but a net cast forth, and only the unprofitable is caught. True friendship should enrich your soul.
He advises giving your best, letting your friends see your ebb and your flood, and crucially, seek friends always with hours to live, not hours to kill. They fill your need, but not your emptiness.
Friendship isn't a void filler, it enhances life.
Right. It adds to your fullness, doesn't mask a lack. He finishes by talking about the sweetness of friendship, laughter, shared pleasures, how in the dew of little things the heart finds its morning and is refreshed.
So the insight here is Gibran seeing friendship as this vital spiritual bond. It enriches us through deep, honest connection, mutual growth. It's about valuing that unspoken understanding, that authentic sharing, over just superficial chat or killing time.
It makes you think. How do you cultivate friendships that genuinely deepen your spirit? Friendships that offer mutual nourishment and a space for being truly yourself, rather than just casual company. It's about seeking connection that truly elevates.
Quality over quantity, perhaps. Then a scholar asks about talking.
Talking, very relevant today. What's his take?
His response is really insightful. He defines talking as often happening when you cease to be at peace with your thoughts. And when you can no longer dwell in the solitude of your heart, you live in your lips, and sound is a diversion and a pastime.
So a lot of our talking comes from discomfort with inner silence and escape.
That's what he suggests, which raises the question, why do we talk so much, and what's its real impact? He says, in much of your talking, thinking is half murdered. The very act of forcing thought into words can diminish its essence.
He uses that metaphor thought as a bird.
Yes, a bird of space that in a cage of words may indeed unfold its wings but cannot fly. The words, in this view, often cage the very thought they're meant to free, limiting its scope.
Does he explore why we talk? The motivations?
He does. Some talk through fear of being alone, because silence reveals to their eyes their naked selves and they would escape. Others talk without knowledge or forethought, just echoing truths they don't really understand themselves. And then there are those who have the truth within them, but they tell it not in words.
Why not?
Because the spirit dwells in rhythmic silence within them, and they honor that stillness.
So what kind of communication does he advise?
A more mindful, intentional kind. When you meet your friend, let the spirit in you move your lips and direct your tongue. Let the voice within your voice speak to the ear of his ear.
The voice within your voice, speaking to the ear of his ear.
Yes, for his soul will keep the truth of your heart as the taste of the wine is remembered, when the color is forgotten and the vessel is no more. It emphasizes this deeper, energetic transfer of truth, heart to heart, way beyond just swapping information.
The profound insight here is a Gibran challenging us to think about the purpose and impact of our words. Are we talking just to escape ourselves or to genuinely connect and share something deeper? It prompts the question, how can you cultivate a deeper, more intentional way of communicating that comes from the heart, where the truth is felt, resonant, remembered long after the specific words fade? It's about letting the spirit guide your speech.
Seeking that deeper resonance. Then an astronomer asks about time.
Time, another concept we grapple with constantly. What's his view?
He immediately critiques our human tendency to measure time, the measureless and the immeasurable, and to adjust your conduct according to hours and seasons. We try to make time a stream upon whose bank you would sit and watch its flowing, treating it as external.
But he offers a different perspective, right? A counter view.
He does. He says the timeless in you is aware of life's timelessness and knows that yesterday is but today's memory and tomorrow is today's dream. You'd suggest part of us that sings and contemplates still lives in that first moment which scattered the stars into space.
So there's an eternal aspect of us that's outside linear time.
That's the idea. He draws this beautiful parallel to love, asking, who doesn't feel their power to love is boundless? And yet, doesn't that boundless love feel centered within us, not moving from thought to thought or deed to deed?
Like it's always present, a constant state.
Exactly. And then he asks, and is not time even as love is, undivided and paceless? Implying both are these boundless, infinite forces that exist beyond our attempts to chop them up and measure them.
We do need to measure time sometimes for practical life. Does he address that?
He concedes, if we must measure it, then let each season encircle all the other seasons, and let today embrace the past with remembrance and the future with longing.
An integrated, holistic experience of time. Past, present, future flowing together in the now, not separate boxes on a calendar.
Precisely. A synthesis within the present moment rather than being driven solely by the clock.
The profound insight here is Gibran encouraging a shift from that external linear timekeeping to an internal, timeless awareness, recognizing the eternal present within us. It makes you think. How can you cultivate a mindset that embraces the present moment as this blend of past and future? How can you recognize the boundless nature of your own existence beyond the clock? It's about trying to live more in that eternal now, even while dealing with daily schedules.
A shift from clock time to soul time, perhaps. Then, an elder asks about good and evil.
Good and evil. The ultimate moral question. What's on Mustafa's approach?
He starts with something surprising and deeply compassionate. He says he can only speak of the good in you, because evil, he claims, is simply good tortured by its own hunger and thirst.
Wow. Evil isn't an opposing force, but just good that's suffering. Distorted.
That's his framing. He uses vivid imagery. When good is hungry, it seeks food even in dark caves, and when it thirsts, it drinks even of dead waters.
Yeah.
Suggesting negative actions often come from a desperate, misguided attempt to fulfill a basic need or longing for good, however twisted the expression becomes, seeking nourishment in dark places.
So he redefines things away from judging actions as good or evil.
Yes, more towards understanding states of being. You are good when you're one with yourself. When you're not one with yourself, you are not evil, just a divided house. Striving to give is good. Seeking gain isn't evil, just a root that clings, may be limited. He even says stumbling speech may strengthen a weak tongue, and even those who limp go not backwards.
There's a real kindness in that perspective, seeing imperfections as just part of the journey.
There is, and he warns the strong. See that you do not limp before the lame, deeming it kindness. Highlighting the danger of false humility or condescension disguised as empathy. He emphasizes you are good in countless ways, and you are not evil when you are not good. You're only loitering and sluggard.
Loitering and sluggard. It's remarkably compassionate. What we see as evil is often just stagnation or goodness gone astray.
Exactly. And he points to the real source of goodness. In your longing for your giant self lies your goodness, and that longing is in all of you. This innate yearning for our higher, complete self is the true wellspring. This longing might be a torrent or a flat stream, but it's in everyone.
But he cautions against judgment between those who long a lot and those who long less.
Right. For the truly good, ask not the naked, where is your garment? Nor the houseless, what has befallen your house. They don't judge perceived lack or different paths.
The profound insight here is al-Mustafa radically redefining good and evil, moving away from rigid moral judgment towards understanding inner states. Suggesting evil is a distortion of a fundamental good, often from unmet longing. It makes you consider, how can you apply this perspective to yourself and others? Seeing beyond actions to the motivations underneath, cultivating compassion instead of quick judgment, looking for the hunger and thirst behind what looks like bad intent.
A radical call for empathy. Then a priestess asks about prayer.
Prayer. Okay, what's his take? Is it just asking for things?
He challenges that straight away. He suggests praying not just in your distress and in your need, but also in the fullness of your joy and in your days of abundance. Prayer becomes a constant state, not just an emergency hotline.
So what is prayer then for him?
He defines it expansively as the expansion of yourself into the living ether. It's not just pouring out darkness for comfort, but also pouring forth the dawning of your heart for delight. He even says, if you weep when you pray, keep going until you shall come laughing. It's a journey through emotion into joy.
And it connects us.
Yes. When you pray, you rise to meet in the air those who are praying at that very hour. But he warns against transactional prayer.
What does he mean by that?
Entering the temple just to ask means you won't receive. Entering just to humble yourself means you won't be lifted. Begging for others means you won't be heard. It is enough, he says, that you enter the temple invisible. The state of being, the intention, matters more than the words or requests.
That's a remarkable reversal of how many approach prayer.
It is. He says he can't teach prayer in words, because God listens not to your words save when he himself utters them through your lips. And he can't teach the prayer of nature, but you who are born of the mountains and the forests and the seas can find their prayer in your heart. True prayer is already within us and in all creation.
Does he give an example of that kind of prayer?
He articulates the silent prayer of nature as a model for us. Our God, who art our winged selves, it is thy will in us that willeth. It is thy desire in us that desireth. We cannot ask thee for aught, for thou knowest our needs before they are born in us. Thou art our need, and in giving us more of thyself, thou givest us all.
Wow, that's a prayer of surrender, unity, recognizing our needs are already met by the divine presence within and around us because God is our need.
Exactly.
So the insight, Gibran presents prayer as a state of being, a boundless expansion of self, not just asking for stuff. It's deep communion, found in joy, in silence, where our needs are already known. Makes you think. How can you shift your approach to prayer from asking to a state of receptive gratitude and expansion, recognizing the divine within your own will and desire, connecting with the sacred that's already here, not reaching for something out there?
A shift from petition to presence. Next, Hermit asks about pleasure.
Pleasure, often a tricky subject, loaded with guilt or judgment. What's his view?
He defines pleasure as a freedom song, but immediately clarifies, it is not freedom, it's the blossoming of your desires, but it is not their suit. It's a depth calling to a height, a caged thing flying, but not the depth itself, or the height, or the space. It's a joyful expression, but not the ultimate goal.
So enjoy the song, but don't lose yourself in it.
Precisely. Sing it with fullness of heart, but don't lose your heart in the singing. He looks at different approaches. Youth seeking pleasure as all, elders remembering it with regret. He doesn't judge the youth. He'd have them seek, because they'll find pleasure in its seven sisters, like finding treasure while just digging for roots, an enthusiastic byproduct.
And the elders regretting.
He advises them to remember pleasures with gratitude, as they would the harvest, rather than regret, which beclouds the mind. And for those who shun pleasure out of fear, he notes that even in their foregoing as their pleasure, they find a treasure too, though maybe with quivering hands, highlighting the desire even in denial.
Can pleasure offend the spirit? Is that a concern?
He dismisses that beautifully. Shall the nightingale offend the stillness of the night, or the firefly the stars, and shall your flame or your smoke burden the wind? He suggests the spirit isn't troubled by natural expressions of joy and desire.
But he does offer a warning about denying pleasure, doesn't he?
Yes, a crucial one. Denying it can just store the desire in the recesses of your being. Our body knows its heritage and its rightful need and will not be deceived. Our body, he says, is the harp of your soul, and it's up to us whether we bring forth sweet music or confused noise from it.
So how do we distinguish healthy pleasure from unhealthy?
He gives this lovely, natural analogy. Go to your fields and your gardens, and you shall learn that it is the pleasure of the bee to gather honey of the flower, but it's also the pleasure of the flower to yield his honey to the bee.
Ah, reciprocity, mutual need and ecstasy.
Exactly. For both giving and receiving pleasure is a need and an ecstasy. It's about natural flow, not selfish taking. His call is, people of Orphalese, be in your pleasures like the flowers and the bees.
The insight here is Gibran presenting pleasure as integral, healthy, part of life's flow. To be embraced fully, mindfully, without guilt. Not an end in itself, but a means to connection, understanding. It makes you ask, how can you experience pleasure in a way that's reciprocal, natural, good for your well-being, like the bee and the flower? Turning it into a joyful giving and receiving, not a source of conflict.
Finding that natural harmony. Next, a poet asks about beauty.
Beauty. Another big one. How does he define it?
He explains that beauty is found only if she herself is your way and your guide, and spoken of only if she be the weaver of your speech. It implies this active, inherent connection and internal alignment, not just passive observation or thinking about it. You have to live it.
He talks about how different people see beauty differently, right?
Yes, illustrating how our inner state colors what we see. The hurt see her as kind and gentle. The passionate see her as might and dread. The tired see soft whisperings, the restless hear shouting among mountains. Perceptions change based on our inner world or the time of day, the season.
But then comes the big reveal, the aha moment.
Exactly. He says all those perceptions spoke not of her, but of needs unsatisfied. That's key. Beauty, he declares, is not a need, but an ecstasy. It's not a mouth thirsting nor an empty hand stretched forth, but rather a heart inflamed and a soul enchanted.
It's a state of being, an inner experience, not something you get to fill a lack. You don't need beauty. You experience it when your soul is open.
Precisely. He stresses that true beauty is internal. Not the image you would see nor the song you would hear, but rather an image you see though you close your eyes, and a song you hear though you shut your ears. It's his continuous, ever-present inner reality. A garden forever in bloom, and a flock of angels forever in flight. A spiritual truth inside us.
And the ultimate definition he gives, the one that really unlocks it.
It's stunning. People of Orphalese, beauty is life when life unveils her holy face. But you are life and you are the veil. Beauty is eternity gazing at itself in a mirror. But you are eternity and you are the mirror.
Wow. So we are not just observers of beauty, we are its essence and its reflection. Both the source and the perceiver, and also the veil that can hide it.
Exactly. The profound insight is moving beauty from outside us to inside us. We are its very essence.
It makes you think, how can you shift your perception? See beauty not just in external things, but as a reflection of your own inner divinity of life unfolding. By removing the veil of your own limits or judgments, you can unveil the beauty that's already within you, around you.
A powerful shift indeed. Then an old priest asks about religion.
Religion. Okay, after discussing all these life aspects, what does he say about religion itself? Dogma.
Rituals. His immediate response is brilliant, a rhetorical question. Have I spoken this day of aught else? He profoundly implies that everything he just discussed, love, work, giving, joy, beauty, is religion. It's not separate from life.
So if religion is everything we do and think.
That's his expansive definition. All deeds and all reflection. And a wonder and surprise ever springing in the soul, even while the hands hew the stone or tend the loom. It completely erases any artificial line between sacred and secular. He asks, who can separate his faith from his actions or his belief from his occupations? Or divide hours for God and self? All your hours are wings that beat through space from self to self. Every moment is spiritual practice.
He critiques superficial morality too, doesn't he? Wearing it like clothes?
Yes. Wearing morality like your best garment is worse than being naked because wind and sun won't tear your skin, but pretense damages the soul.
Yeah.
Ethics that cage the songbird prevents its freest song. And a window worshiper opening and closing their practice has not yet visited the house of his soul, whose windows are from dawn to dawn. True spirituality is boundless, constant.
And the core declaration. The main takeaway.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Your daily life is your temple and your religion. This is a profound call to integrate spirituality into every single moment. He says, take your all into this temple. Tools, people, experiences, because in reverie, you cannot rise above your achievements nor fall lower than your failures. All of life, the whole thing is our sacred practice.
And knowing God, it's not about solving riddles.
No. He says, rather look about you and you shall see him playing with your children. See him walking in the cloud, outstretching his arms in the lightning, descending in rain, smiling in flowers, waving his hands in trees. God isn't in abstract theology or far-off heavens, but right here in the everyday world, in nature, in human connection.
The profound insight here is Gibran reimagining religion as this integrated lived experience, not separate from daily life, not confined to certain times or rituals. Every action, moment, interaction is spiritual practice. It makes you ask, how can you recognize the sacred in the mundane? Find God in the simplicity of your daily life, in the world around you. How can you live each moment as an act of worship, seeing the divine unfolding everywhere?
It makes everything sacred. Finally, as the sun sets on his time there, Almitra asks about death.
Death. The final question. How does he approach this?
He starts with a pivotal question, shifting our view immediately. How shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? He uses the analogy of the owl, blind to the day, unable to unveil light. We must open our hearts fully to life to understand death.
So life and death aren't opposites.
Not for him, he states powerfully. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. It removes the duality. They're continuous, inseparable parts of the same reality, a constant flow, transformation. He says silent knowledge of the beyond is in our hopes, our dreams, like seeds dreaming of spring under snow. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity.
What about the fear of death? How does he address that?
He reframes it as the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. There's joy underneath the trembling, recognition of being honored, a divine appointment. To die, he says, is to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun. Surrender, dissolution into the vastness.
A stripping away of everything non-essential and ceasing to breathe.
Is to free the breath from its restless tides that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered. It's liberation, not termination. He offers these profound transformations. Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing, and when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance.
Surrender and release unlock deeper levels of being.
That's the essence of it.
So the insight. Gibran presents death not as an end, but a transformation, an integral part of life's continuous journey. It invites us to live fully, embrace silence, and letting go as catalysts for deeper being, expansion. It makes you consider, how can you integrate this perspective? Maybe diminish the fear of death by seeing it as this natural, unencumbered expansion of your being. A doorway to deeper dance and song, not just endpoint.
A comforting yet challenging perspective. As evening falls, the ship ready, Al-Mustafa gives his final words. A farewell that sums up so much and offers a promise.
What does he say in this farewell?
He reaffirms his identity as a wanderer, ever seeking a lonelier way, always traveling. He uses that beautiful metaphor of wanderers as seeds of the tenacious plant, scattered when ripe, suggesting departure itself has purpose, spreading wisdom.
And he promises to return.
He does, heartfeltly. But should my voice fade in your ears and my love vanish in your memory, then I will come again, with a richer heart and lips more yielding to the spirit. He'll return with the tide, suggesting a natural cycle.
He reassures them that the truth he spoke will reveal itself more clearly later. His departure isn't emptiness, but a promise.
Right. He acknowledges that man's needs change, but not his love. That fundamental yearning remains. Then he reveals this intimate connection he felt with them.
How does he describe that?
In the stillness of the night, I have walked in your streets, and my spirit has entered your houses. Your heartbeats were in my heart, and I knew you all. He compares himself to a lake among the mountains, mirroring their thoughts, desires, allowing them to see themselves.
But he focuses on something deeper within them, doesn't he? The vast man.
Yes, the boundless in you, the vast man. That's what truly connected with him. Sweeter still than laughter and greater than longing. He says, it is in the vast man that you are vast, and in beholding him that I beheld you and loved you. This vast man is like a giant oak tree covered with apple blossoms, our inherent infinite potential, our higher self. That's his true beloved in everyone.
He also challenges how we judge ourselves, right? That saying about the weakest link.
Exactly. He says, you have been told that. You are as weak as your weakest link. This is but half the truth. You are also as strong as your strongest link. He critiques judging people by their smallest deed, like judging the ocean by its foam or by failures, which is like blaming the seasons for changing.
He affirms our true nature is vast, enduring, like the ocean, like the seasons, beyond temporary flaws.
Yes, and he clarifies his words weren't praise, just reflecting what they already know. What is word knowledge but a shadow of wordless knowledge? The deepest truths are silent.
He came to take wisdom, he says, and found something greater.
A flame spirit in you ever gathering more of itself. This flame spirit is life in quest of life in bodies that fear the grave. And he declares, there are no graves here. These mountains and plains are a cradle and a stepping stone. Our ancestors are still dancing where they were buried. Life continues. Verily, you often make merry without knowing.
He reflects on being seen as proud, but says he was too proud for wages, not gifts. Acknowledging their loving mindfulness sustained him. And he makes that point about kindness.
Yes, you give much and know not that you give it all. Kindness looking at itself turns to stone. A good deed naming itself becomes the parent to a curse. True giving is unconscious, egoless.
He explains his distance was necessary for perspective. How can one be indeed near unless he be far? He hunted their larger selves, but was also the hunter and hunted, believer and doubter, finding knowledge in his own wounds. He embodied the paradoxes.
He truly did. He concludes by emphasizing their boundless nature again. You are not enclosed within your bodies. That which is you dwells above the mountain and roves with the wind. A free spirit, he admits his words might seem vague, but vague and nebulous is the beginning of all things. Life is conceived in the mist and not in the crystal. Remember him as a beginning, a catalyst.
And that incredibly powerful insight about our inner strength.
Yes, that which seems most feeble and bewildered in you is the strongest and most determined. Our breath built our bones. An unremembered dream built the city. He promises the veils will lift, the clay in our ears pierced, and we shall see and you shall hear. And we won't regret past blindness or deafness, because in that day you shall know the hidden purposes in all things, and you shall bless darkness as you would bless light.
Ultimate clarity and acceptance. Wow.
And then he signals his ship. It departs into the mist, leaving the people crying out, Almitra silent. He acknowledges the day's end, but promises return. A little while. And my longing shall gather dust and foam for another body. Another woman shall bear me.
The cycle continues. He promises future meetings in memory or dreams to sing deeper songs, build other towers. This farewell really sums it all up. Life as continuous transformation and return. Our true self is boundless. Wisdom is in darkness too. Strength and weakness. It reminds us our limits are temporary veils, and the cycle of life, death, rebirth is purposeful unfolding.
What a remarkable journey we've taken today, really digging into Kahlil Gibran's The Prophet. We've seen how al-Mustafa's wisdom just transcends time and circumstance, offering these deep insights for almost every part of being human.
Yeah, we've explored those powerful paradoxes, joy and sorrow, freedom and chains, and recognized how deeply interconnected everything is, from life and death to reason and passion, and crucially, realizing that truth, beauty, freedom, they're fundamentally internal states, not things out there to get.
And this deep dive really showed how everyday acts, things like work, giving, even just eating, can be totally transformed into profound spiritual practices, elevating our daily life into this continuous act of worship.
They really aren't just old words on a page, are they? As Al-Mustafa said, they're living truths moving within your souls, just waiting for us to fully acknowledge them and live them.
Absolutely.
So we really hope you'll reflect on which of these lessons resonated most deeply with you right now. Maybe it was the nature of love as that transformative force, or the idea of spaces in your relationships, or maybe elevating your work to love made visible.
Yeah, maybe just take one principle that really stood out for you today and try to consciously apply it this week. What small shift can you make to see your daily life as your temple, or your interactions as chances for true giving and deep connection?
And as you go about your day, maybe keep Al-Mustafa's final, powerful thought in mind about the strength within each of us. That which seems most feeble and bewildered in you is the strongest and most determined. So pause and consider. What seemingly small, overlooked, maybe even vulnerable part of yourself might actually be your greatest, most enduring strength, just waiting for you to fully acknowledge it and let it shine.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the prophet.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.